We're back, baby. It's been a long time, but we're back and we're here to talk about Arsenal. We're going to look back at all the games that have happened since we last recorded, and then we're going to take a look at the big game this weekend as Arsenal go to the new Hill Dickinson Stadium to face Everton in what is a crunch fixture given the recent results. How are we going to perform? Who's going to line up? And how do we get those 3 points? It's all coming up on episode 32 of Red Lines Half Spaces. Welcome to episode 32 of Red Lines Half Spaces. We're back, baby. We know you've missed us. It's been a long time, but it's been too long, and we do apologize. It is just, unfortunately, life gets in the way as per usual. Family life for both of us, working life has taken us away from our love of Arsenal and also talking to you. But we are back, and we're very glad to be here. And I'm very glad to be back in the company of my esteemed co-host, Joe. How are you feeling, mate? Welcome back. It's been a while.
We're going to be very rusty at this, mate. I feel like we're going into into the start of the season with no pre-season here. We're coming off the back of an international break that went on for too long. We didn't get any minutes while we was away, and we're gonna try and rediscover some form as we get back in the Arsenal lineup.
I like that. I like how you've put that together in terms of.
Maybe the break did me some good, mate. Maybe I was a bit sort of running on fumes. I needed the break. The break served me well, and hopefully, just like Arsenal this week, we had a week off, and we're going to come out flying on Saturday. Me and you are coming out flying on the Friday the night before to preview the game. So it's good to be back. It's been a long time, and I feel like a lot has happened in the Arsenal world. A lot of emotions and a lot of up and down. So be good to kind of recap everything and just get ready for the next sort of bunch of fixtures.
That's it. I mean, so much has happened, literally. So if we just recap for people who haven't caught up with us, we did a preview of, we just completed our review of Bayern, and then obviously we previewed Chelsea. So what we're going to try and do here is just to catch up a little bit on where we're at, a few talking points, and then we're going to start looking at the Everton game. So let's dive into it, Joe, by starting with the quick look at the Chelsea game. Chelsea won, Arsenal won. Big talking points from this one for me, Joe, are the Moises Caicedo red card and just the general poor performance of Arsenal in this game, given that we had 11 men against 10 for the majority of the game, and we should have, I felt, done more. I don't think we were good enough in the attacking thirds. I think there was some caveats. William Saliba obviously was out in the game, went out very early, before the game. And obviously we went in with a brand new lineup, which was Christian Mosquera and Pierre Nkapie. Gabriel is still out. So very new lineup in the defence, which we can understand. But Joe, your quick thoughts on the Chelsea game. First of all, the Moises Caicedo red card. Where do you stand with that one? Was it a red card?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's one of them where if it's yours, you can't really have any complaints. Obviously, the challenge. It was reckless. And yeah, it's this day and age, mate. It's a stonewall red card, isn't it? Really, I don't think anyone can say otherwise about that, to be honest.
And then Joe, the injury to William Saliba, just before the game, Christian Mosquera coming in, Mosquera and Pierre Nkapie. I think it showed, look, they haven't played together very much, and Nkapie had only just started the North London derby beforehand. But it definitely showed, didn't it? It wasn't really a cohesive defensive unit. You don't expect that, but I don't think we performed at our best really in that game at all. I think we were pretty poor, and we got lucky with the goal from Marino, a good header from Bukayo Saka cross. But it was a disappointing performance, wasn't it, Joe? From my perspective, how did you find it?
Yeah, I think, mate, if we had, if we'd got a draw and Chelsea had 11 men, I think you'd probably look at it and go, do you know what? It's not a bad result. Chelsea, they're a bit hit and miss. Sometimes they're good, sometimes they're not so good. Bit of an up and down team. But it was the fact they had 10 men, and the fact that really, if obviously we had our issues with injuries and whatnot, which I'm sure we'll touch on plenty sort of after this, but I just felt disappointing. It felt like an opportunity missed because Chelsea going down to 10 for near to an hour, roughly, was it? I think off the top of my head.
Yeah, pretty much.
Really, I think you can get a little bit of criticism for that because I think if you want to go and win the league in those big games, if a team goes down to 10, I know it can be hard with teams kind of sitting in, but I don't think Chelsea really sat in. Chelsea didn't. It wasn't like the Wolves game, for example, where there was just two banks of 5 or 5 and a 4, considering I had 10 men. So yeah, I was a bit disappointed that we didn't make most of the man advantage and get the win. But getting a draw at Stamford Bridge is not a terrible result. I just feel it's a bit of an opportunity missed, considering they had a man less for, like I said, an hour of the game. But we'll take a point from Stamford Bridge. It's not a problem.
Yeah, I think it's better to not lose than
Absolutely
capitulate again. Chelsea had opportunities. That's the thing. Chelsea had opportunities. It wasn't like it was straight fire. We were dominating. Chelsea still had a go, and they still had very good players. So, look, I think a draw is fair considering the performance of what we had. But yeah, a little disappointing given the context of the game. So we'll move on. Next one was a home game on a Wednesday night. Arsenal versus Brentford. 2-0 to Arsenal. Marino and Saka getting the goals. Fairly, I think Brentford still were a very good team. They showed a few flashes, but I don't think there was anything concerted here that I went, oh, Brentford are going to trouble us. I still felt we were pretty comfortable in this game, but 2-0. Joe, how did you feel? Brentford, comfortable result for you?
It was a very forgettable game, wasn't it? I mean, looking back on it now, I mean,
you can't remember anything, can you?
I can't. I could obviously you remember the goals, but I mean, other than that, there wasn't really much memorable about the game. And to be fair, I'm totally okay with that. When the fixtures start piling up, it doesn't matter what's happening in the game. Just get the wins, and that was a perfect example of just going into a game with no frills, go in sort of minimal kind of effort, just get the win, get out of there, go on to the next game, and that was essentially what that game was because. Other than sort of thinking of Saka's late goal, I know he missed one just before, I couldn't tell you anything else that happened in that game, Ian. But again, 3 points at home to Brentford. Brentford are a team who we've had problems against previously. I know they're under a new manager now, but yeah, another example of just get 3 points and get on to the next one. Not a problem.
I think the biggest output from me, unfortunately, was the injury to Christian Mosquera in this one. So we lost Saliba, obviously, at the Chelsea game. We've now lost Mosquera in this game. Landed awkwardly. He's out for, and now he's got a hamstring, so it looks like he's out for about 6 to 8 weeks is the estimate. So again, more defensive problems. So we actually had another defensive lineup in Hincapié and Jurrien Timber. And again, you can't keep having this kind of disruption and expect them to function as a unit. It's crazy. And we're going to talk about the injuries in a minute, but let's move on to the next game. Where's my page? Where is it now loading up? Here we go. Oh, I hate this one. Villa Park, Saturday, 12:30. This one was always going to be a bit of a problem because Villa are in very good form and continue to be in good form. But Villa 2, Arsenal 1. But Joe, this one was just kicked in the balls, wasn't it? It was just a kick in the balls because it was last minute.
Unai Emery coming back to haunt us again, mate. This is the Unai effect that he keeps having on us. He keeps doing it. He's at the Emirates. He's done it a couple of years in running now, and now at Villa Park he's done the same thing. So I'm glad we're playing them again as soon as we are because I feel like this team are a team, and especially Arteta, they don't forget things like that, and I think they'll want to right that wrong. And the fact the fixture comes around so quickly, I think is a good thing for us. But yeah, it wasn't. It was a painful one, mate, because I genuinely thought when we got to 1-1, I thought, right, here we go. We're going to nick this now. We're going to go on.
Well, we nearly did, didn't we? We had so many opportunities. This is the problem, that we had opportunities, and we're going to talk about this as well. But in the end, Emi Buendia, it was a scramble in the area, the maddest scramble I've seen for a while. And then it fell to Emi Buendia, and he managed to find the net. It wasn't anything special, but it was a kick in the teeth because it was right at the death, literally the last kick of the game. And it was really disappointing because, as you said, Joe, I thought in the second half, we were the better team by far and we should have won it beforehand. But again, we're now getting compounded by injuries, and it's just a recurrent theme. But really disappointing, this one. I felt really flat after this game, just probably because of the nature of the goal. I think if it had been 1-1, I would have accepted it. Getting to Villa Park, awkward location, and played amazingly well for the game overall, but we got done enough to get back into it. How did you feel? Was that your kind of feeling, Joe?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you could say that Villa didn't deserve to win. I think they had plenty of moments in the game as well. It was one of those, it kind of got a bit silly, didn't it, end to end. We didn't, very un-Arsenal, we didn't have any sort of control in the game, I felt, which is something that these days is a kind of our trademark, if you like, is that there's a lot of control. Everything's very kind of disciplined. We rarely see that kind of end-to-end game. And obviously in this one, that all just went out the window. And I'm sure Arteta would have been fuming about that, because that's one thing that he doesn't like, is sort of leaving things to chance like that. Because if it turns into an end-to-end game, anything can happen. And essentially, mate, that's what happened in the end. Villa had some good chances in the game. Raya made some good stops. We had a couple of chances as well.
They had too much space, didn't they? Morgan Rogers and Tielemans were getting way too much space in the game, weren't they? Particularly Morgan Rogers. It looked too easy for him. And I think that's just because of the defense. My personal view, and you can tell me otherwise, Joe. You've got two new defenders again in there, in Nketiah, Timber, who don't... And the gap between the defense, midfield, and the attack was just too much. It was too easy for Ollie Watkins to run in behind our two defenders, wasn't it? Because our defenders are not good in the air, are they? So it was easy for Ollie Watkins to pick up space, because Gabriel or Saliba are not attacking the area, are they?
Yeah, no, I wouldn't disagree, mate. As well, I think we seem to be almost running on fumes a little bit going into this game. I feel like the fact it went sort of as an end-to-end game towards the end really didn't favour us, because I feel like with the fixtures we've had, obviously playing every 3 days, eventually that's going to catch up with you. And I feel like in this game we kind of saw an example of we might have had some wins against sort of Bayern, and that sort of that carries you through on confidence. You think, yeah, another win. But you kind of forget that it takes a toll on the legs. I mean, you might have beaten Bayern Munich, but you can bet your bottom dollar that Arsenal had to put some yards in and some effort in to win that game. And like we said, playing every 3 days eventually catches up with you. And unfortunately, I feel like Villa, they're a bit of a transitional team. They've got good energy. But even players like John McGinn, they'll run all day. And unfortunately for us, mate, we come up against a Villa team who you maybe could argue in that last 5-10 minutes had more energy than we did. And essentially that's why they got the win in the end, because you could see through that defending, mate, when we was trying to stop it, it was all last ditch, like throwing themselves in the way. And this is very rarely see Arsenal. Actually, normally very controlled. You might get one person throw their body in the way, but then the rest of the defence are all there and kind of well positioned and whatnot. Whereas this, you could tell it was like last ditch. And there was 2 or 3 tackles that went in, and when it broke eventually, Buendia finished it really well. But that was very un-Arsenal, I thought, that we saw in that game.
And Joe, do you think that was, that last minute, we saw that we went on the attack and tried to get a goal? Do you think we should have actually just stayed our station and said, 1-1, job done, let's just stick it there and go to the corner flag rather than attack? Because obviously, when you get to the 80 minutes, for me personally, at Villa Park, a point is not a bad result. And you should have, I know there was opportunities, but Villa, to their point, to the point you made earlier, were very good as well. And I would have thought that, look, a point is not a bad one. Just take it, play dirty, just keep it safe, and don't let them come on to you. But we did, didn't we? We let them come on to us quite easily. And I think it's a bit of naivety in this kind of game, that you wanted to win it, great, but you can't win every game, can you? You have to pick your moments, and you have to be savvy enough to say, look, get the point and get out of here. There's other games that you're going to win. This is not one that you necessarily need to break the bank to get the win, Joe.
Yeah, I take your point, Yen, but equally you could say that, what was that chance at the end? Was it when Rice put the ball across for Gyokeres?
Yeah.
I think we have to do better there, to be honest.
Timber took it off his hand.
That one as well. I was thinking of when Rice from left-hand side puts in, Gyokeres doesn't get there, and Madueke has a shot near post into the side net. It's just, it's a real waste, mate, because I think if Gyokeres is, I'll cut him a bit of slack. I know we're going to go into him later, but just coming back from injury, lacking sharpness. Would he have got that if he'd sort of been in form and playing games? Maybe. And then Madueke, obviously, he was just back from injury as well. So maybe lacking that sharpness and coming back into on his left foot and hitting it. Just, yeah, that was the chance to win it, really. And unfortunately, you kind of saw that rustiness that's come with the injury crisis we're having yet again, and how it's cost us
And,
in that game in a big moment.
and Joe, to your point, Arteta brought off Bukayo Saka, who had been him and Odegaard had been combining very well, and they were the ones where the threat was coming. But he took Saka off when we were on top for Madueke. I mean, I found that really odd. How did you find that decision? Because it did make sense to me. You don't take off the player who's causing the most damage. I know you can't play Saka for the full 90 all the time, but this was one of the games where you go for it because he's clearly the danger man, isn't he?
Yeah, the only thing I can think, mate, is because obviously Saka's played a lot of minutes. Is he in danger of? Is he, like we say? Is he in the red zone? Were we going into the game saying Saka's got an hour and then he's got to get him off? We kind of don't know. But I agree with you, mate, that I think going into games like that, you keep your best players on the pitch if you can, which makes me think that there must have been an issue either going into the game or picked up during the game that wasn't mentioned. But yeah, I would have thought that otherwise Saka would have seen out the 90 because as he's proven since he's come back from injury this season, he is still the star man for us and he is the man who makes things happen.
Yeah, really disappointing one, and it allowed Man City to close in on us, and as well Villa as well, who are doing very well. Next one was in the Champions League, away to Club Brugge. Now, this one we rotated heavily, which was great. And a lot of one man who stood out was Noni Madueke, had an absolutely storming game in terms of 2 goals, really did well. Gabriel Martinelli with another good finish, really proving his credentials in the Champions League. He's scored for now 5 games on the shuffle in the Champions League and is the first Arsenal player to do that. But Joe, again, unbeaten in the Champions League. This could have been a potential banana skin given the fixture congestion, the need for rotation, but we really did well with this game. I think Club Brugge still causes a few problems. We overcame them. Noni Madueke with a fabulous first goal, absolute rocket. Second goal was an easy header, which the goalkeeper, I think, would be crying head if he sees the replay. And then Martinelli with an absolute storming finish as well. How did you view the Champions League game and where we are in the Champions League right now? I think we're pretty secure for the top position. Actually, I think if we beat Kairat Almaty, which is our last game, we don't need to beat Inter. We'll still go through at the top, won't we, Joe?
Yeah, the Champions League campaign's been brilliant, mate, and I think European football suits us more. I think that the way we kind of play and the way we set up, I think that's a setup built for Champions League football. And you could say it's proven by where we are in the table, the kind of results that Mikel's had since he took over in the Champions League. Our home record's phenomenal. So yeah, it brought a bit of feel good back to sort of the club after, obviously, like you said, the disappointment of the Villa game. I thought Madueke was sensational. His first goal was it was breathtaking, mate. Just that little shimmy of feet near the halfway line. That pace he has as well. He's just so quick, accelerating, gets away.
Yeah.
And it's just an absolute rocket into the top corner. Fucking brilliant goal. Absolutely brilliant. And yeah, had a really good game. Martinelli again showing that Champions League is probably where you're going to get the best out of him because you do get a little bit more space. Teams do come at Arsenal a little bit more, which allows Martinelli that kind of space to go into. Obviously scored against Bayern as well. So like you touched on, the 5 in 5, which is a brilliant record. So no, it was good. And I think you saw there the benefit of rotation because a lot of those players looked fairly fresh, I think. I know Bruges aren't going to be sort of the hardest opposition we face, but no one looked leggy in that game. No one looked like they'd sort of done hard yards. Everyone looked fairly fresh. So it was a perfect game, mate. We got rotation in, got goals for players who needed goals, and yeah, it set us up nicely for the fixture against Wolves at the weekend.
Let's talk about now Wolves. I'm going to class this one as disappointing. Although we got the win, I thought we were abysmal in this game. Honestly, I'm pretty disappointed with how we performed. That we won 2-1. Good, good that we get 3 points. But the actual performance was kind of worryingly back to how we played last season with this horseshoe effect and the lack of penetration and the goal chances, and then obviously we've got the ineffectiveness of our attack, and then obviously it took 2 own goals effectively to win this one, and Wolves kind of scared us in the 89th minute when they got that goal from Eric Adare. We got lucky that we won the game almost, with the next kick. But Joe, this was slightly worrying, wasn't it, in terms of we dominated possession as we usually do, but against this deep, deep block, we really struggled considering that we had Erdegaard and Eze on the pitch at one point. How did you view the Wolves game?
If I could think of a worse word to use than abysmal, Yem, I would. It was an absolute car crash. Usually when you get these sorts of games that you win, like in the 90th minute, you're euphoric, you come out, you're buzzing, you're just saying, wow, we've done it, great win. But I don't know about you, but from my perspective and kind of around where I was sat in the stadium, that goal went in, and yeah, obviously there's big celebrations and massive relief that we'd won. But that kind of euphoria died very quickly, and very quickly it just went back to that wasn't good. There wasn't that kind of feel, like the Reece Nelson at Bournemouth as an example. Absolutely unbelievable, and everyone walked out there buzzing, like the adrenaline rush was mad. But for this goal, it was relief, and there was nothing more to it than that. And I think everyone, I don't know, did you go to this one yet?
No, I didn't, unfortunately. I had
No.
to.
So walking out of the ground, it was just there wasn't that feeling, of that last minute, and everyone was just saying how bad it was. And I turned to one of the guys I sit next to at half time, and I was like, at least we know we can't play that badly in the second half, because usually if we have a bad performance in the first half, you come out in the second half, address the situation, and I thought we'd still fly away from it. But my God, it was just an absolutely terrible performance from everyone, mate. If it wasn't for Saka in that game, who was the only real sort of threat, I thought Trossard, in fairness, was brilliant when he came off the bench. But I think Saka was the only player there who ever really looked like making something happen for us, until Trossard came on and played a few good passes.
So why is this, Joe? Let's review that. Why were we so poor against the bottom team in the league? We can point to they played a flat back fight, they were deep, deep, deep. But we already know this. Most teams play deep against us. Why are we struggling to break down this kind of team? I know that, and a lot of better accounts than we have said, Wolves played different. Man United played different against Wolves. Wolves had more respect for us, so they literally packed the area. They had doubling up everywhere. But surely Mikel and the team know this is how it's going to be. These teams are going to absolutely park the biggest bus they can in front of us. But yet with all the creativity, all the talent, even the ones we brought on, we struggled, didn't we, Joe? It wasn't that we were creating chance after chance after chance after chance. And I'm looking at players like Martin Erdegaard, to be honest, and I thought he was really poor, to be honest, in a creative sense, because all he did was pick up the ball, jog a few meters to the right, to the left, stop, look, turn back, and go the other way. The lack of creativity there, and Eze as well. Most players, I think, for me, were abysmal. I'll come back to that word. Only Saka, for me, came out with any credibility, and I just thought it was a gutless performance. Is my best word that I can put it. That maybe there's some mitigations. I think Rice and Zubimendi are running on fumes, and I'm glad we've got this week off, because you can tell they're absolutely spent. And I can't argue with that, because they have been there all the time. But I'm going to argue with Mikel Arteta for not rotating better. Norgard is a perfectly serviceable midfielder and should be playing in more of these games. He's done nothing wrong. But Eze, Erdegaard, Martinelli, and Viktor Gyokeres, who we're going to talk about, because I've been pretty vocal now about my thoughts on Viktor Gyokeres, and we're going to go into that in the next sector. But I just thought this was gutless by a lot of the front players, and it was so disappointing to see it on TV. And I'm sure in the ground you're getting tired of the passing, horseshoe, no real attempt to move it into the box and create anything. There was no shots of any note, really. It was coming through Saka. Viktor Gyokeres really did not do much at all. At all. He had one chance which was going across the area, wasn't there, which is something now I'm getting very frustrated at. But Martinelli again struggling against a deep block, which we already knew about. But again, these are the games you should win. I'm glad we've won, but not like this. It shouldn't have been like this. It should have been more comfortable, more destructive. I get that we were playing a deep block, but that's not an excuse anymore. We bought because of that. And yet the players we brought on, including internationals like Erdegaard, Eze, etc., did nothing in this game, I thought particularly. How did you sorry for the rant. I'm still fuming over it.
No, but
how did you feel,
I think,
considering the lineup and the
I think everyone
that we
probably feels the same as you do, Yem, to be honest, mate. I'll touch on a few points you made. So I totally agree that the players who started the game, it was spineless. I think you're absolutely right by saying that. No one really stepped up, other than Saka, of course, but no one really kind of took the reins. No one at any point really went, okay, we need to sort this out. I'm going to be the man to fix this. It's always Saka who does that. But no one else did it. The point you made about Gyokeres not getting on the end of those balls into the box that are flashed across the kind of 6-yard box, and they're the goals that's the reason he was bought. That's why that was one of his big selling points, is that he's that man who'll be in the middle to finish them chances. And at the moment, he's not there to finish them chances. So that's a fair criticism against him. I'll be honest, I wasn't happy with the lineup.
Yeah, I wasn't either.
But Ben White obviously getting injured, pulling his hamstring. That was his third game in a week.
In a row, he was loaded. He was already in a bad place. He was already in a bad place, wasn't he?
Yeah, we know sort of the injury struggles Ben White had. So why on earth is he starting 3 games in a week? And Arteta came out after the game and said, I didn't have any other option. But you did have another option, because surely Miles Lewis-Skelly should have started at left back. You could have just left Nketiah in
something's
a
going on, isn't it?
And then Timber at right back.
Why is he not starting Miles Lewis-Skelly? It's so odd that we went through this line. And again, as you said, the lineup was, I thought, really imbalanced. It looked tired again. It was the same kind of rhetoric that came about, and it just showed in this game, because I think when Miles came on, he was a better fit than what happened. And obviously Ben White now is out for another 8 weeks, which is not what you want. Arteta is struggling to rotate players properly, isn't he? This is another. The old habits are starting to reappear, aren't they? Where he doesn't trust players. The midfield, he doesn't clearly trust Norgard for some reason.
Yeah.
In that midfield.
Well, yeah, this
position.
was going to be my next point, Yem, is that obviously, so the back four for me was all wrong. I thought MLS should have started ahead of Ben White. I don't think anyone would have seen a problem with MLS starting. I think that back four of MLS, Hincapié, Saliba and Timber just makes so much more sense than the defence he did go with, but he went with that. I mean, the midfield of Zubamendi, Rice, Eze, like you said, mate, that Zubamendi and Rice must be running on fumes. This would have been, knowing what you're up against here, this would have been the perfect game to go for the Eze and Odegaard partnership, with Rice sitting in behind, to give Zubamendi a rest. You did not need to play Zubamendi in this game for me. You didn't. You could have even maybe left Rice out. I know you don't leave 2 out possibly, but I mean, like you said, Norgard could have come in. There wouldn't have been a problem with that. But again, the rotation thing, like you said, is all wrong. And why we started Martinelli, I do not know. He obviously started the game in the Champions League. Not a problem with that. But Wolves are going to be sat deep. And we know coming up against low blocks, that's not Martinelli's games. He's got no space to go into. And the only time in the game Martinelli, for me, did anything was when he saw Trossard standing up, ready to come on the bench. And he went on that run and obviously had a shot.
Yeah.
But that was literally the only thing he'd done in the entire game, mate. So for me, from the moment the lineup come out, it just didn't look right to me. I really wasn't a fan of the lineup. I mean, credit to Wolves, because they done what they set out to do brilliantly. They frustrated us. I think we made it quite easy for them at times, but they're bottom of the league, mate, and they did what they had to do. And with all due respect to them,
Yeah,
probably deserved the point. We essentially stole 3 points in that game because there was no way did we deserve to win that game. Quite frankly, we were, like you said, abysmal, shambolic. You could use any word like that. And I think the only good thing to come out of this game, mate, is that we have played that badly. You saw the reaction of Declan Rice when that goal went in, people celebrating. And the news that came out sort of subsequently was that there was quite a sort of big debrief on this in the dressing room, which is good to hear. So the only good thing is that we've played that badly, still got 3 points. We've then had this week off. Arteta's mentioned that he hasn't had time to train the players because of the fixtures. So I think by the sounds of it, they had a couple of days off, was back in working towards this weekend at Everton. And what we have to see now is a massive response at Everton. We have to go to Everton. And if we put in another poor performance, there's going to be so many questions because all the kind of things
well,
that
there's already questions.
Go on, mate.
We've already got those questions, haven't we? We've got those questions, haven't we, Joe? Now the questions are starting to mount about: are we looking at a bottle job again? Because it has been a little bit concerning in terms of we're not. And I think there are mitigations in some respects. You know, the defense has been decimated by injuries, but the lack of the toothlessness of the attack is a big concern. And that's I'm taking your point on board, Joe. I think the questions are starting to rear their head, and I've certainly asked them. I'm sure you're asking them, aren't you?
Yeah, unfortunately, mate, this is the problem we're going to have. Like, I don't think, I know people kind of label Arsenal as the kind of the bottle jobs and whatnot, but I think that title is unfair because I don't think we've bottled the last 3 kind of years of title race. I think last year we weren't good enough. The year before was when obviously we won, 18 of 19 of the last games of the season. Yeah. If someone else beats you to the title, that's not bottling it. You've put together there a run that 99 times out of 100 wins you the Premier League. We were just unfortunate we come up against a City side who were phenomenal. The year we bottled it was obviously the year that we lost Saliba. We had the lead and it all kind of, I think it was the West Ham game where it all kind of went wrong. And I'd say we bottled that year. But unfortunately for us, that's kind of the label that Arsenal have now got amongst maybe not sort of the pundits, but maybe, again, fan media has kind of created a narrative that the sort of the ex-players and pundits and they're kind of jumping on it and using it to, as you do, get their hits and get their likes and streams and that sort of stuff. And unfortunately, Arsenal have to work with that now. And the worrying thing for me, mate, is that we was talking about how poor City have been, how inconsistent they've been, and how good and consistent Arsenal have been, the polar opposite. But the gap's only 2 points. And that is a bit of a concern to me because you think, where's that gap gone? We were flying. We was all laughing. We was thinking, yeah, we're motoring here. We're looking good. And in the space of a few weeks, you just go, hang on, maybe this isn't going to be as simple as we was all predicting. Maybe winning that first Premier League in 20 odd years isn't going to be the cakewalk that we all thought it was. And it is going to be a grind and it is going to be a horrible process. But I'm just hoping that the players are ready for it and up for it because realistically, this was always going to come. We was never going to stroll off into the sunset and win a Premier League title. It's always going to get ugly. You've got managers like Pep who have been there and done it. City, they've got winners across that team. They've done it before. Liverpool, I know they're struggling, but if they was to hit some form, they'd be back in there. This is the Premier League. It's not an easy league. Look at how we struggled against Wolves to get a result. It's never going to be simple. And I think with any luck, all these things can be taken into consideration coming off the back of that Wolves result. And now we can just go, right, refocus, reset, let's go again. We know we're in a title race now, and let's get serious about this.
Well, so Joe, let's ask this question then, since you've addressed it in part now. We are, I don't think, in the best moment form-wise. I think there is a genuine concern, but are there mitigations in the amount of injury? We are decimated by injuries. For the deepest squad in the Premier League, we've now officially hit 100 injuries since last season, which is mental in terms of the numbers. And you're looking at majority are hamstring injuries. So, Gabriel, hamstring injury. Mosquera, hamstring. Are we in a territory where we do have to start? Is this bad luck? I think the question that's going around, is it bad luck? Or are we looking at Mikel Arteta's methods? Because other teams, the Man Cities, etc., have said we specifically look at our load management. We've got a way that we avoid this because they have been avoiding it for the majority. They don't get as many hamstring injuries.
Mm.
But are we thinking that the way we play and the way we train is just too demanding on our players? Because a lot of hamstring injuries. Look, Kai Havertz is now out until mid-January with a setback, and that's from another hamstring injury. So does Mikel need to bear some of the brunt of this criticism and the concern over the injuries? Is this a medical department issue, Joe? Where are we? Where do we apportion the blame for this? Because it's pretty serious that we've got 100 injuries. And even with, you can only go so far in buying players to mitigate this. But the players are dropping like flies, aren't they, in terms of we get one player back, one player goes out. It's, Saliba comes back for the Wolves game. Ben White goes out. It's never the case that we have a fully fit squad, is it?
No. And I think you can look at all aspects, mate. I think you have to look at all aspects when you look at the numbers that there are 100 injuries since last year is absolutely, it's mad. So I think you've got to look at the medical department, say what's going on there. You've got to look at what Arteta's doing because obviously he's managing the players. You've got to look across the board. You've just got to look at every facet. And was it last year or the year before they said they're going to look into it and they're going to try and do some sort of research into what's going wrong and all that. Clearly they've not done their research because it's still happening. So I think you can apportion a bit of blame everywhere. Rather than squarely at one person's door. The only thing I would say as well is that a lot of these injuries have come whilst players have been on international breaks. So Gabriel, obviously playing for Brazil, got injured. If we go back a bit further, Odegaard obviously picked up that nasty injury whilst playing for Norway when they sort of just decided to snap his ankle off. And that was for Norway. I think Trossard, he picked up an injury when he was playing with Belgium. So yeah, I think you could, like we said, mate, I think you can look across the board and say, think you could probably get an extra 5-10% in each category just to kind of do better at, because we're clearly doing something wrong. What that is, we can only speculate as fans because obviously we don't see the day-to-days. We don't have the information to know what's going on. We only can judge it by the minutes that we're seeing on the pitch. And obviously if players are injured, it's going to be the same players playing. And then the risk to them being injured gets higher and higher the more minutes they play. But if you don't have the rotation options, what do you do? Again, a big criticism of Mikel has been sort of how poor he has been at rotation. I think at the start of the season, when we had the majority of players available, the rotation looked better. But just recently, I know there's injuries at the back, but I mean, even in midfield and the attacking areas, I don't think there's been as much rotation as there could have been. And I think that's where people are asking questions of Arteta, because we know that the rotation thing is something that's held us back previously by players being just run into the ground. You've only got to look at Ben White, whilst Timber was injured, played over 4,000 minutes. And now look at the struggles he's having. He was running to the ground, and essentially, as sad as it sounds, mate, you could say that Ben White might not ever be the same player again because of how overused he was during that spell when we had no one else, and he just played on through minor injuries, and now it looks like he's almost broken himself. So yeah, it's an issue that needs to be really closely looked at, because I know that other teams get injuries, don't get me wrong, but it just doesn't seem that other clubs have the amount of serious injuries that we get. Other clubs will have players getting knocks and whatnot, but we seem to have a player almost every week being injured for 6 weeks plus, and that's not normal.
Yeah, I think something definitely has to be looked at. But the problem is, obviously, with training methods, you can only do it in the pre-season, really, because once you're in season, you've very little time. This week is a abnormal circumstance. But Joe, yeah, I'm just getting frustrated. I think every Arsenal fan is frustrated at the amount of injuries, because per week it seems like we're going to get a new one. I mean, the news is Gabriel is close to coming back, but you can see players like Timber are in the deep, deep red zone. It's crazy because he's been playing quite a lot of minutes. I'd assume, and we'll talk about the Everton game, that we'll get some more players back in. And Calafiori was also suspended for the Wolves game, so that's an additional player who was out. That is very vital to us. Joe, we're going to move on, and before we look at the preview of the Everton game, let's talk about a few discussion points that have come out of this little self-imposed break that we've had to have. The first one, and this is one I am very vocal at the moment, and if you follow me on X, you will have known that I've lost it with Viktor Gyokeres. I am pretty disappointed. I know he's not been here that long, but I've seen enough that I'm not convinced that he is the striker that we needed. With not an Erling Haaland, but someone who's going to get the goals that are needed in these lesser games, the Wolves, the games against Villa, Brentford, all of these games. But what I'm seeing is a pretty ineffectual player who struggles with the pace of the Premier League, who looks a level below it. For me, he's not doing enough to get into the box, and on the end of the crosses, he always looks like a yard behind or not thinking properly. He's very unintelligent in his runs for me. It's very straightforward. There is no thought or succinctness in what he does, and he looks to brawl with the defenders rather than be clever with his movement, which is what we thought we'd do with when he was at Sporting, because he was much more cleverer. Joe, for me personally, I don't see enough in Viktor Gyokeres, and I know I'm maybe being harsh given that he's been here for a couple of months. He's had an injury hit start of his season. He looked better against Burnley, but my gut feeling is that I've not seen enough that says he is explosive enough or he's good enough at the top level. I think at most he'll be a squad player, and I don't think he's going to get the goals that are required. I just don't see, even against lesser Premier teams, that he's struggling. Wolves, bottom of the league, you should be expecting that he'll be at least on the end of it. I don't expect him to score all the time, but I saw nothing against that Wolves defence that said, yeah, he's a monster. He will go up against them. It was just behind the ball, lack of willingness to get into the box. He doesn't make any runs that are, maybe there's also a problem with the people behind him. So the Erdegaards, the Ezes are not finding him when he makes the run. There was a very good screenshot where he'd made the run, and Erdegaard, as per usual at the moment, is holding the ball way too long because he does this thing where he's trying to be that metronome all the time, whereas he should be actually passing. And I know there's a stat going around that we've made the most progressive passes, but progressive passes into a dead area doesn't mean anything to me. So for me personally, I am deeply frustrated at the moment. I just think creativity-wise, we are lacking, but our focal point up front just is not getting enough shots away. For someone who had a thunderbolt shot, he's got nothing there. And I think he just looks a yard off it in terms of the Premier League. What do you think, Joe? Am I being too harsh, or is it a case of you're seeing the things I'm seeing where it just doesn't look like he's that level?
I don't think you're being harsh, but I'm not at quite the stage you are yet of writing him off. I will try and you've done the negatives of Gyokeres, which is fair enough, and a lot of fans are feeling very similar, but I will try and kind of go with a more positive review, just to kind of dovetail what you've said there, Yam. So one thing I would argue is that obviously we know he didn't get a pre-season. That obviously, like we've seen with Isak, you've seen what difference that makes, and the season Isak had last year to this year. So I don't think you can underestimate the importance of having that pre-season with getting yourself up to speed, getting sort of familiar with your new teammates and all that sort of thing. I think he was unlucky in the fact that we saw him really running and working his socks off at the start of the season when he was the only option. I think we'd all agree that in an ideal world, if there were other options available, he would not have played anywhere near the amount of minutes he did play, and he wouldn't have been thrown in for sort of the game at Old Trafford on his own up front, sort of welcome to the Premier League in one of the most difficult places you're going to go. I think he done okay. I don't think he ripped up trees by any stretch, but he done all right considering what we was asking of him in the early stages of the season. He was looking really lively against Burnley and was arguably having his best game for us. And then obviously had to go half time with that injury. He still seemed to be sort of kind of suffering the effects of that injury. He doesn't look sharp to me yet. And given that the team hasn't looked sharp over the last few weeks, I think has kind of affected his ability as well. to a certain extent, you're only as good as the service you're getting. And like you've touched on, mate, his service in recent weeks has been shocking. Not just his service, but I mean, as a general kind of attacking force, we've not been great. I think, like you said, there's been a lot of sideways passes, a lot of horseshoe football. He's made a lot of runs that have been ignored, whether that's intentional or whether that's just people not noticing his runs, we don't know. But Odegaard holding on to the ball for too long. Martinelli's been guilty of sort of head down, running with it, not looking up, seeing his runs. So yeah, I think I wouldn't disagree with anything you've said. But I think there's still enough there for me that I think potentially he could still be a player who for us could get 15, 20 goals. I think there's still the possibility of that. Whether that will be this year, I don't know. But I'm not expecting him to, once Havertz and Jesus are back, he's had a big opportunity to kind of lay down a marker and become Arsenal's main man, and he's not taken that. So I would expect to see him come out of the side, and then given his age, given his profile, how long do you then give him before Arsenal say we might have to cut our losses and move him on and bring in someone else? So yeah, a lot of talking points, mate. A lot of noise around him. And the only thing I will stick up for him on is that I feel like he's been compared to Erling Haaland, which is ridiculous because that man's got 100 goals in 100 games or something ridiculous like that, and he's a once in a lifetime striker. Haaland, we've never seen anyone like him. His ability to finish it's unprecedented what he does in front of the goal. So for people to be kind of making the comparisons to Haaland, I think is unfair, and you're setting far too high a benchmark upon him to do that. But no, I think hopefully I've given you a bit of hope. Hopefully I've given the listeners a bit of hope that Gyokeres could still do something. But I understand the frustration, but I would say let's not write him off just yet. There may still be a chance for him to kind of do something in this side. Whether that will be, like we said, scoring 30 goals a season, I don't think is likely, but to score an amount of goals that would take pressure off of players like Saka, Martinelli, Trossard, Eze and all that, then yeah, I think he can do that for us. But he's running out of time, I will say that much.
Yeah, because again, Kai Havertz should be on his way back January. Jesus is back now. And let's be honest, Jesus has done better than he has in terms of runs and shots. Different kind of striker, but the numbers matter, don't they? He got a goal he's the one who caused the disruption against Wolves for the winner. He's looked lively. He's at least making runs that people are tracking to. It's a different kind of run. But it's just concerning that those kind of bread and butter chances that are going across the goal, he's not reaching them. He's always a yard behind the defender. He seems to want to brawl rather than, be tactful and get in front of his defender with some clever movement. And I have concerns that, the noises that people made before the season. So, David Pleat, for example, said, I don't think he was any good. I didn't think he's at Arsenal level. It's starting to concern me that it may be true. I hope I'm wrong. I honestly, brutally hope I'm wrong. And I get to eat crow later on that Viktor Gyokeres bangs in 10 to 15 goals and I'm going, I didn't see it. Honestly hope so. But at the moment, what I'm seeing is a fairly heavy player, looks really heavy in terms of his running, lacks the physicality to get past a man, seems to be very easy to shove off the ball once he's given up. It's fairly easy, and he doesn't really want to make that extra yard. He can't be tired because he's been injured and he's come back fresh. But there's going to be competition coming, and Jesus for me, the more I see of him, and he's from a double ACL as well, looks a better fit and will probably start a few games if Kai Havertz doesn't make it back sooner or later, or even Marino, because Marino scores goals. Not ideal. He's not. He's like a very clumsy player, but he gets goals because his positioning is so good. And yet Viktor Gyokeres' positioning is it's either not found or he's not clever enough to evade his defender. This is the problem, that you'd think that Viktor Gyokeres, like Marino, should be clever enough to make space in the box and attack the ball. But it seems like he's a very Neanderthal approach. I'll just try and brute force my way through. And that really doesn't work in the Premier League. He's not got the physical advantage that he had in the Premier League. So I'm just struggling to see when Viktor Gyokeres will explode moment. I can't see it because I can't see him physically getting past some of even the worst defenders in the league, which are the Wolves defenders, which is disappointing. I think for me, Bert has taken an L on this one. It's a rare one, but I think this is one where I think it's not going to happen. So, Joe, let's get to this weekend's game. We go away to the Hill Dickinson Stadium, a brand new stadium for us to experience, and I will be experiencing it. Me and Waleed, who's been on the show a couple of times, will be journeying to the fabulous state of Liverpool to experience the Hill Dickinson Arena. I can't wait, what's not, and all this, chip. But yeah, I'm looking forward to this one because new stadium. I like the look of it. It looks really impressive. And I think Waleed is really looking forward to taking the piss out of Liverpool fans because their stadium is awful. And this is the best stadium in Liverpool at the moment, isn't it, in terms of it's brand new. But Joe, Everton away, always very physical, especially with David Moyes, going to be very difficult. We know what's coming, don't we, when we go there tomorrow. It is not going to be Everton going to make all the running and press on to us, are they? They are absolutely going to go deep block, physical. They'll utilise Jack Grealish, and they will, try to expose us on the break, even though a lot of their best players are out. And let me just give you a few caveats on the injury, a few news on the injury situation. So Seamus Coleman is out. Idrissa Gueye is at the African Cup of Nations. Ilman Ndiaye, they're one of their best players at the African Cup of Nations. Jared Branthwaite is out. Kieran Dewsbury-Hall, one of their best players, is out as well. Jack Grealish will be fit. So they've got a number of injuries. There is no excuse, is there, Joe? We've had a week off. We should be better than we were. But I always look at this as a potential banana skin, especially since Everton's do very well at home, don't they?
Yeah, I was just having a look at those injuries, mate, like you said. And I was looking on toffee.web, which is obviously Everton-based fan page. And their opening thing is, a depleted Everton squad will host leaders Arsenal on Saturday night. So Everton, by their own admissions, are having injury problems. Obviously, like you said, players going away African Cup of Nations this time of year. We've got our own problems. But again, if you want to win the league, we've seen Arsenal go to Everton plenty and struggle. You've got to go there and get the win. Other than the injury crisis that we've had over the last few weeks, this week, everything has kind of fallen how you'd want it to going into this game. You've had a week off. You've had no Champions League football. You've had no Carabao Cup fixtures going on. You're going into this game fresh, essentially. You've had that 7 days to prepare for this game. You've had the training sessions you've wanted. You've been able to give players the rest that you wanted to give them. You're going into it now. There can't be any excuses. Players will have had that rest. Calafiori's back now, so that's massive for us because we've seen how important he is to our style of play. That should mean that Timber should go back over to right back. You'd want, I think, Nketiah central with Saliba, and that's a very good defence you've got there. Then, yes, we're struggling. Yes, there aren't many options to change it around, but that's a really strong back four, mate, and that's a back four that you'd be comfortable going into most games with. Gabriel really is the only player who you'd strengthen that with, I think, and obviously we know he's hopefully due back soon. But no, this is a massive game coming off the back of that Wolves one, mate. With Arsenal, I think it's frustrating because I feel like you say every game's must win at the moment. It seems like every week we do sort of a preview and say, oh, it's a must win game. But this really is a must win game for Arsenal. And not only is it must win, but I feel like we need to see a level of performance from Arsenal we've not seen in the Premier League for a few weeks now. We need to see sort of intent. We need to see sort of plenty of attacking play, creating opportunities. We know Everton are going to be difficult. We know what we're going to get going up there, but you've got to go up there and get the win. I mean, the one I'd compare it to is City Palace. The other City beating Palace 3-0. That's a standout result. That's a massive statement result, and I feel like Arsenal need one of them. And Everton would be a really, really good place to go and get a result like that, to really announce, say, look, we had our blip. We had a sort of a bit of a wobble, if you like. We had a few results that were less than satisfactory. We had performances that were far than satisfactory, but we're back and we're ready, and here we are. And that's what we need to do at Everton for me, I think.
But Joe, how would you line up now? We've got injury problems. We've got a few players back. How do you start this game, knowing that in Everton are depleted? How do we attack this one? Because there are a few questions about a few players. It's a case of, do we start Eze? Do we start Trossard? Because I think Martinelli against a deep block, which we think Everton will be, has not done well enough. And I think Trossard has proven that he's been one of the best players of the season. So what will be your lineup for this game, Joe?
So I'm going, obviously, Raya in goal, Timber right back, Saliba, Hincapié, Calafiori.
You wouldn't go MLS at all? You wouldn't put Calafiori to the
No, I'd
centre
throw
back?
Calafiori's had. He didn't play the Bruges game either, did he?
No,
So
but would you when you put him at centre back? Because one of the things that's been levelled is that in the air we're struggling. But Calafiori, I think, is one of the best players in the air. He really does look very good.
Yeah, I mean, you could do, mate, but personally, I think Hincapié's been playing quite well. I quite like his range of passing. I think he's made a few good sort of defensive actions in the last few games. There's a block against Wolves that saved a certain goal. So I'd continue with him, and I like that kind of dynamic of the left-footed centre half. And I think Calafiori on the left-hand side has arguably been one of our players of the season. So I'd continue with that. In the middle, I'd go Rice, Zubimendi, and I think I would probably go Eze to start.
No, Odegaard. Why not Odegaard? What's your thinking there?
Odegaard for me is, we've seen what happens when we rush players back, when we bring players back too quickly, and in these kind of games that we know we're physical, we don't need a player roughed up early on. Eze seems more robust, if you like. So I'd be more than happy to leave Odegaard on the bench, bring him on later in the game once maybe the game's opened up a little bit, once there's a few more tired legs, and let him kind of have that space that he needs to operate in. And then
do you think
Odegaard?
Odegaard, do you think he's been good enough in a creative sense when he's come on? Because I don't think so. I think since he's come back from the injury, I think he's lacked that kind of sharp turn that he used to have. It's very much.
I'd agree, mate. I think he's really good in the. Was it Newcastle away when he come on?
Yeah, Newcastle away.
Come on there, changed the game, done brilliantly. But I think
he holds too long. He's holding the ball way too long.
He's holding it too long, mate. But is that down to the injuries and the lack of minutes he's got? Once he gets that rhythm back, will we see Odegaard now start sort of pinging those balls through as we know he can do? Potentially. So I would personally start him from the bench and let him come on, because that's when he's been better. And in my front three, Saka on the right, Trossard on the left. Ooh, and I'll be honest, mate, I would be tempted to start with Merino at the 9.
What's your thinking there then?
Just thinking, mate, obviously Everton, they'll play deep. And I think Merino in games gone by has linked up really well with Eze, when Eze's been able to sort of run beyond him and Merino drops into that 10, like we saw at Spurs. That it worked really well. I like what Merino's done in terms of playing with Trossard as well. I think you've seen some nice link up with them. So it's not a great reflection on Gyokeres, and kind of goes against the points I've just made of trying to keep everyone positive about him.
But, well done, Joe. Tactical knowledge in effect there.
Yeah, but generally, I think I'd start Merino just because he's scored the goals. He's been fairly consistent, and I think the team looks better as a whole when he plays. So yeah, I think for me that would be my lineup. And then you've got plenty of firepower on the bench to bring it on. Hopefully you don't need it, and we could bring it on more as a rotation thing and give players minutes and rest legs later on in the game. But if you do need to change the game, you've got Gyokeres, you've got Jesus, you've got Odegaard, you've got Madueke, you've got Martinelli, Wanyeri. You've got lots of options there who you can call upon if you need them.
Yeah, so for me, I'm going to go David Raya in goal as well. Timber at right back, Saliba. I'm going to go with Calafiori at left centre back, because I think Hincapié has played a lot of minutes, a lot of minutes. I think in the air, he struggles a little bit. I think Everton will try to play that aerial game with Thierry Barney, who's a very big striker. And then left back for me, I'm going to go with Miles Lewis-Skelly, actually, because I think he needs the minutes. He looks better, but I definitely think he needs minutes. And then in the midfield, this is an awkward one. I'm going to go with Rice, Zubimendi. I'll go with you as well. Eze should start. I think Ødegaard, me, just still looks a little off the pace, and I think it's just purely because he's still coming back from his injury. There's no need for it. There's no need to push it. I think as well the front three has to be for me Trossard. I'd love to say Viktor Gyokeres to get his mojo back, but I don't think it's possible. I think it's a real problem. And I think Saka and I think Marino will start. I think just to give something different. But I also do want to see some rotation here. We're hopefully going to get a few goals here, but also get rest time for either Rice or Zubimendi. Zubimendi ideally, because Zubimendi's on fumes. They've said he's load managed. Joe, we would usually go to our predictions game, but we're running out of time. Let's talk about this game. What do you think? What's your score?
I'm going to be overly optimistic, and I'm going to go for 3-0 to Arsenal.
Ooh, that is optimistic, given that.
Overly optimistic, I'm going for.
Overly optimistic.
I'm thinking, do you know what? We've had the week to prepare. We're rested. We can go into the game fresh. We've got what would look more of like our first choice 11 back and available, all rested, ready to go, all really keen with a point to prove off the back of the Wolves game. And I'm hoping, and I'm trying to wish into existence that we're going to see that response. What are you saying?
Fair enough. I'm going to go for a 2-0. So
I thought you were going to go 2-1. 2-0. Right.
No. I knew you wanted that, but no, I'm not playing your game. I'm not going to your level here. No, 2-0. I think we can do it. I think we've got enough firepower. My only concern is obviously this kind of horseshoe effect coming back in again. We need to be more decisive. And that's going to be the big concern. We're going away to a ground which we don't know enough about, but it should be a good playing surface. And you'd hope that 8 o'clock, people are going to be awkward. I know it's going to be awkward for us because we're going there, me and Waleed, as we said. But yeah, we should be able to overwhelm. I mean, Everton haven't got their main key players, Dewsbury Hall and Idrissa Gueye, and then obviously, some of Ndiaye's out. These are big players.
It's hopefully come at a good time for us, which very rarely happens for Arsenal.
No, exactly.
We need to coming back. So
we need to get back on this because I don't see Man City losing to West Ham. So I think they'll be there again. And also, I think Liverpool will beat Tottenham as well. So they'll be right back into it. Chelsea, Newcastle, I can't predict. I think that might be a draw as well. So I think it's a weekend where we need to get back on it because the next game's coming again thick and fast on the 27th. So we haven't got much time. But Joe, we're going to leave it there. We're both very hopeful.
Do you know what, Yen? It's a joy to be back. I'm glad I've missed doing this. I'm sorry that we was absent for so long. Like we said at the start, life kind of gets in the way, but we're back and hopefully we can be the catalyst for Arsenal going into the weekend.
That's what it is, isn't it? Look, I've just had that thought. Why are we not thinking about this? We're the problem, aren't we? We've not been doing it. And yet we've had this bad run.
Here we go. A 5-0 incoming.
Exactly. We'll see you on the next one where we're going to be absolutely, flying in terms of results, and it's going to be due to us. But for now, we're going to leave that. I'm not going to do the catchphrase because I've lost my text. I had it and I lost it completely. But thank you everyone for listening. Still continue to listen to us. We're going to try to keep the content coming. We do apologize again. It's just life. Life, family gets in the way. Life of not getting in the way of football. That's what we want. We've got loads of games coming over the Christmas period. We're hopefully going to be able to cover all of them. But for now, thank you for listening. If you do like the content, keep subscribing, keep listening, share it as well. Make sure that people listen to us, and we'll catch you on the next one of Red Lines Half Spaces. Bye for now.